I usually don't ask this early, but if you could like the video and subscribe, it would mean a lot. We're so close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and your support can really help get my content out there. Thanks. Sure. Let's continue to deepen the narrative, exploring more of Nathan's life in the Yukon, his emotional journey, and how he interacts with the local community while reflecting on his past. Here's the continuation. Life in the Yukon, embracing solitude and community. As winter settled over the Yukon, the landscape transformed into a wonderland of white. Snow blanketed the ground, covering everything in a serene silence that was both comforting and isolating. I had grown accustomed to the solitude, yet there was a growing yearning for connection, something I hadn't anticipated when I first fled from my past. I made a routine of visiting the small general store run by Maggie, a warm-hearted woman in her late 50s. She had lived in the Yukon her whole life and was a treasure trove of local stories and wisdom. Each time I walked in, she greeted me with a wide smile and a twinkle in her eye, as if she could sense the turmoil I had left behind. "Hey there, Nathan! How's the hermit life treating you?" she'd tease, her voice rich with laughter. "Better than I expected," I would reply, returning her smile. "I'm learning to enjoy the quiet." One evening, as I was picking up supplies, Maggie invited me to join the local book club she hosted at the community center. "It's a great way to meet people," she encouraged, "and we could use some fresh perspectives." I hesitated. The thought of interacting with strangers felt daunting, but there was something about Maggie's warmth that coaxed me into saying yes. The book club met every Wednesday, and the first few gatherings were nerve-wracking. The group was a mix of ages, from retirees to young families, all eager to share their thoughts on the chosen books. I listened more than I spoke, absorbing their insights and learning about their lives in this rugged landscape. Through these meetings, I met Catherine, a spirited woman in her early 30s who had moved to the Yukon after a series of personal setbacks. She had an infectious enthusiasm that drew people in. Over time, our conversations grew deeper, moving beyond literature to our personal journeys. "I moved up here to escape," she confessed one evening, her voice softening. "Just like you, I suppose. I needed a fresh start after everything fell apart back in Toronto." I nodded, feeling a bond form between us, a shared understanding of loss and the search for healing. Our friendship blossomed, and for the first time since my departure from Vancouver, I felt a flicker of hope, a reminder that connection was possible. Tratter, the Winter Festival. As winter deepened, the community prepared for the annual Winter Festival, a celebration of art, music, and local culture. I had heard whispers about the festivities, a chance to showcase local talent and bring the community together. Maggie nudged me to participate, suggesting I display some of my paintings. "Your art is beautiful, Nathan. You should share it with everyone," she insisted, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I had dabbled in painting since my arrival in the Yukon, using it as a therapeutic outlet. But the idea of exposing my work to the community was intimidating. However, with encouragement from both Maggie and Catherine, I decided to take the plunge. The day of the festival arrived, and the community center was transformed into a vibrant hub of activity. Tables were adorned with handmade crafts, local artists displayed their works, and the air was filled with laughter and the scent of hot cocoa. As I set up my display, I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. What if no one liked my art? What if they saw through my facade? But as the festival kicked off, my fears melted away. People began to gather around my paintings, engaging in discussions, complimenting my work, and sharing their own stories. Catherine stood by my side, beaming with pride. "You see, you belong here," she said softly, her encouragement lifting my spirits. It was a turning point for me. I felt a sense of belonging that I hadn't felt in years. I was no longer just the man who had vanished. I was Nathan, an artist, a friend, a member of a community. Reflections on the past. As I reveled in the joy of the festival, I found myself reflecting on the life I had left behind. My memories of Elise were no longer a source of pain, but rather lessons learned. I remembered our early days together, the laughter, the dreams, and the way we used to talk for hours. But those moments were overshadowed by the betrayal that had shattered everything. I realized that I had spent too long carrying the weight of that betrayal, allowing it to define my self-worth. I had equated Elise's choices with my own value, forgetting that I was more than the sum of our shared past. While the pain of the divorce was still there, I began to see it as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. I had reclaimed my identity, and I was finally moving forward, not looking back. An unexpected visit. Weeks passed, and the community embraced me wholeheartedly. Just as I was settling into this new chapter, an unexpected knock on my cabin door jolted me from my thoughts one afternoon. I opened the door to find Elise standing there, looking weathered and uncertain. Her eyes reflected a mix of emotions, regret, confusion, and something else I couldn't quite place. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated. This was the last thing I had anticipated, but something in her demeanor told me this wasn't just a casual visit. I stepped aside and let her in. As she entered my home, memories flooded back, the laughter, the arguments, the love that had once filled these walls. But I quickly pushed those thoughts aside. "What are you doing here, Elise?" I asked, my tone guarded. "I had to find you," she said, her voice trembling. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened. I realized I didn't truly understand what I had until it was gone." I watched her carefully, searching for sincerity in her eyes. "You had your chance to figure it out, Elise. You made your choice." "I know," she replied, tears brimming in her eyes. "I messed up, Nathan. I hurt you, and I can't take that back. But I've changed. I'm trying to change." I remained silent, allowing her words to sink in. "I wanted to apologize," she continued, her voice breaking. "Not just for what I did, but for how I treated you. You deserve so much better." "Apologies don't change the past," I replied, trying to keep my emotions in check. "You can't just walk back into my life and expect everything to be okay." "I don't expect anything," she said, her voice steadying. "I just wanted you to know that I've learned from my mistakes. I've been working on myself and I want to be better. I understand now what I lost." Her vulnerability surprised me, but it didn't erase the pain. "You think I can just forgive and forget? You think I can just let you back into my life after everything?" "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said. "I just want you to know that I'm trying. I miss you, Nathan. I miss us." I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but the wounds were still fresh. "You can't just turn back time, Elise. What you did changed everything. I've built a new life for myself, and I'm not sure there's room for you in it." She nodded, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I understand. I really do. But I needed to tell you. I needed you to know that I'm not that person anymore." Finding closure together. As she stood there, vulnerable and exposed, I felt a wave of conflicting emotions wash over me. The pain of betrayal was still there, but so was a sense of empathy. We were both flawed individuals who had made mistakes, searching for redemption in a world that often felt unforgiving. "Maybe one day we can have a conversation without all this tension," I said slowly, trying to find a middle ground. "I'd like that," she replied, a hint of hope creeping back into her voice. "I don't expect us to be the way we were, but I hope we can find a way to coexist, even if it takes time." I nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. Perhaps this encounter was the closure we both needed. As she turned to leave, I felt a pang of nostalgia wash over me. "Take care of yourself, Elise," I said softly. "You too, Nathan. I truly wish you all the best." Embracing the future. After Elise left, I stood in the doorway for a while, letting the silence envelop me. The past had been acknowledged, but I was determined to keep moving forward. I had carved out a new life in the Yukon, one filled with art, community, and a growing sense of self. Days turned into weeks, and the friendship with Catherine deepened. We began exploring the stunning wilderness together, hiking through snow-covered trails, sharing our stories over campfires, and finding solace in each other's company. There was a sense of ease between us that felt refreshing and invigorating. One evening, as we watched the sun set over the mountains, casting vibrant hues across the sky, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. "I never thought I'd find a place like this," Catherine said, her voice filled with wonder. "It feels like home." I glanced at her, the warmth of her presence reassuring. "It does. Sometimes the places we run to become the homes we never knew we needed." "Have you ever thought about what you want for the future?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. I paused, considering her question. I used to think about it in terms of rebuilding what I lost, but now I'm beginning to see it as an opportunity to create something new. She smiled, and in that moment, I felt a shift within myself. I was ready to embrace whatever the future held, free from the shadows of my past. The journey continues. As spring approached, the world around me began to awaken. Flowers bloomed, the snow melted, and life returned to the landscape. It was a beautiful reminder of renewal and rebirth. I poured my heart into my art, creating pieces that reflected my journey: pain, healing, and hope. I planned to exhibit my work at the upcoming community gallery, feeling a sense of pride for what I had accomplished. The last weekend of April arrived, and the gallery opening was a success. I stood in front of my paintings, surrounded by friends and community members, all of whom had embraced me without reservation. Their encouragement fueled my passion, and I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. As I mingled with guests, I noticed Catherine watching me from across the room, her eyes sparkling with pride. I approached her, a smile on my face. "Can you believe this? Look at all these people," I said, gesturing to the crowd. "It's incredible, Nathan. You've come so far," she replied, her gaze steady. "Thanks to you and this community," I said, feeling the warmth of connection wrap around me. "I never imagined I could find a place where I truly belonged." Catherine's expression softened, and in that moment, I realized how much she meant to me. I had begun to allow myself to feel again, to open up to the possibility of love and connection. A new chapter. As the weeks passed, Catherine and I grew closer. Our shared experiences and laughter wove a new tapestry of connection that felt both familiar and exhilarating. We went on hikes, shared meals, and explored the beauty of the Yukon together. One evening, as we sat on my cabin porch watching the stars twinkle above us, I turned to her. "You know, I never thought I could feel this way again," I admitted, my heart racing. "What way?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. "Hopeful, happy, like I'm finally living instead of just surviving." Her smile brightened the night. "You deserve that, Nathan. You've been through so much, and now it's your time to shine." As the warmth of her words wrapped around me, I realized that I was ready to embrace the future fully. I had found my way back to joy, and for the first time in a long time, I felt excited about what lay ahead. Conclusion. A journey of healing. In the end, my journey was not just about fleeing from betrayal. It was about discovering who I truly was and what I wanted from life. The Yukon had become my sanctuary, a place where I could heal and grow, surrounded by a community that welcomed me with open arms. I had learned that letting go of the past didn't mean forgetting. It meant finding a way to move forward with grace and strength. Elise's visit had brought closure, and now I was ready to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I was no longer defined by my past. I was carving out a future filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. Thank you for joining me on this journey. What are your thoughts on the twists and turns of life? Have you ever found the strength to move on from a difficult situation? I'd love to hear your stories and reflections in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of resilience and renewal.